Hey, good morning. This is our Monday morning training. Thank you so much for coming on. It is Monday, June 24th, and we're going to be talking about how to break out of a sales slump today. It's something that I think pretty much all agents go through it at some point. Probably many more than just one time. It's just different things that we have to kind of work through and figure out ways to kind of overcome those sort of things. So we're going to talk today about how to break out of a slump and maybe even what could be causing some of those sales slumps. So I have Chris with me this morning, as usual on our Monday mornings. Good morning, Chris. How are you doing this morning?
Excited to talk about a key topic that I think makes or breaks a lot of agents.
Yeah, most definitely. Um, can you think any time even recently that you've gone through any kind of sales slump, or would you say that you're pretty consistent? Do you ever have a week where you're just like, man, this was just not the way I had expected things to go?
I think I have that happen during the day plenty of times where you think, this is not how it was planned out. This isn't going the way it's supposed to. It's supposed to be going better. But I believe, and I'm sure you've got it in one of your slides today, that activity cures all problems. And sales slumps are just micro situations that people let get out of control.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I mean, one thing that you just said that I didn't even think about was I've had moments in the day that are like that. We think about how it could be a week maybe that we're going through, but like you just broke it down in just one single day. And I like that because I mean, that's just, when you kind of notice those sort of things going on even throughout your day, well, then you can maybe snap out of it even sooner. You're not going to let it affect your entire week. The week could turn into a month and who knows from there. So, no, I like that you even broke it down into just a smaller size and just a simple bad day, having a bad day and trying to figure out ways to overcome that to end off the day on a high note.
I think there's an hour in every day that just sucks for one reason or another. Just oh, there it is. That's the part of the day that's going to suck. And the rest of the day is defined by what you do after it. Maybe it's your first appointment that stood you up. Maybe you woke up to a chargeback. Maybe you got in an argument on the way out the door. But it's these micro moments of the day that decide what else happens with your day. And then these sales slumps are a result of these micro moments snowballing on people, not to steal the whole training's thunder.
Yeah. Well, and the thumbnail I put together, as you could see, breaking out of a sales slump, I relate a lot of stuff to sports and baseball and stuff like that. And I think that very similarly, I think, ball players, they get into slumps and same thing. They got to kind of figure out ways to overcome things. And I think just by kind of going through these slides, you'll even notice, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with one another, just the different sort of things that, and what we do and like what an athlete has to do to kind of overcome those things when uh when trouble arises, I guess you could say, and got to figure out ways to overcome things to kind of get back on track. So breaking out of a sales slump, what we're going to talk about what causes a sales slump, and we're also going to then kind of break down how to break out of the slump. So what causes a sales slump? And my first question is a sales slump self-inflicted? Because in my opinion, I kind of feel like it is. Uh, Maybe not all the time, but again, I mean, I think so much of what we talk about too is accountability and holding ourselves accountable. And I think a lot of times that it can be self-inflicted. Are we being consistent with running our business? Uh, just self-evaluation. Are we regularly ordering leads? Are we working the same hours every week? Are we setting the same number of appointments every week? Well, I guess I put that one on there twice. I didn't even realize it. Are we, ordering leads? Well, heck,
It's like
ordering
twice as
leads is
important.
so, yeah, it really is anyway. So, but again, and I know you've talked about this too, Chris, where you've had weeks where you order, well, every week you order like the same amount of leads. You try to have the same amount of appointments set, and majority of the time you experience the same results or very similar results. And so that's where, like I said, if we fall into a slump, what are we doing differently? Are we not being consistent with a lot of these things? That are we changing things up where then we're not getting those same results? So, and I'm sure you would agree, Chris, that a lot of this just has to do with the repetition of our daily, work day, our work week, and just making sure that everything is lined up for success from the get-go, and not changing things up, and just being consistent with what we do week in and week out.
I think so much of the problems that we face in the industry are self-inflicted problems, which all kind of revolves around the same things that you put right here. But one of the biggest eye-opening moments I had in my career was early on that I realized the more leads I had, the easier the week became. I had a person at that original organization tell me that I shouldn't increase my lead order, and that's when I began to realize I would outgrew the pool of fish I was swimming in, because I'm like, well, 25 is a lot easier than 20, and 15 is just hard, and 0 is stupid. So I think when people find themselves in a slump or they're struggling, they need to ask themselves, what have I done to put myself in this situation? Because most problems in this business are you problems.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, I mean, so much of it, again, self accountability. Um, I'm not a real big fan of excuses, honestly. When people start saying just stuff like how, things getting in the way of their success, like, well, you're the one that's kind of causing those issues. You're the one who's letting things get in the way of your success. So, but anyways,
You,
another
have
thing
you
to
ever,
think about. Yeah, sure, Chris.
Adam, have you ever seen the video, Eric Thomas from years ago, where he's like, "You owe you a something," like, because they're like, it's a motivational speech, and I forget what the word is. You owe yourself not an apology, but like some self reckoning, because if you want to get to where you want to go, who else is going to take you there but yourself? Like, no one's going to put you in the car. No one is going to dress you. Someone might make your appointments for you. Someone might even purchase your leads for you. But if you want to get where you're going, it's, and in the end, you're the one that's going to have to get there.
Yeah, exactly. That's, and again, this is the sort of business. I mean, we're very independent. We got to be able to handle the independence. We got to be disciplined with that. And that's where, again, when it comes to setting a schedule, when it comes to setting up appointments, when it comes to ordering those leads and being consistent with that. Uh, yeah, I mean, the failure usually ends up when we are not consistent with the main things that are going to help us to be successful. So, another thing to think about too here, are you as motivated as when you first started? I mean, I think that's something too. I mean, anytime I bring on a new agent, we'll get out in the car, we'll go out and work leads, and like they are like at like the peak, I guess you could say, of like their motivation. They're so
Mm-hmm.
pumped up, they're so ready to go, they're so excited. And then I think sometimes what happens, I think reality kicks in a little bit. And once they get out there on their own, and they got to get out there and they got to work the leads, and they realize, wow, I can do well, but this is actually kind of tough. I really got to put the time in. I got to put the time in. I got to learn this craft. I gotta learn what I'm doing. I mean, I'm going to people's doors and they're shutting me down, and I don't know what to say. Like, just things like that. It's like, I think that a lot of times people, they're so motivated when they first start, then reality sets in, and then it's just a matter of, kind of the same thing. I think about, like, even like we've talked about this, like a lot of these young ball players that come up, where when they first come up, they're people don't really know a whole lot about them yet as far as the scouting report is concerned, and they're knocking the cover off the ball. And then once the scouting reports kind of come out and people start to kind of figure them out, they got to make adjustments and they got to get back there and learn and figure things out. And I think that's a lot of this business too. I think agents need to maybe make those adjustments and figure things out and do what they can to get better and get back to that point where they're as motivated as when they first started. Have you changed how you present and not even realize it? I mean, I would recommend even if you're in a home, record yourself, go back and listen to it. They're not even going to know your prospect's not even going to know you're recording, but record yourself, go back and listen to it. And then you could even go back and listen to my presentation of the presentation that was taught from the get-go. Or if you're not with me, just whatever presentation you were taught from the beginning that maybe someone else that was successful had taught you. And if you're not using a presentation, that could be part of the problem as well. I mean, I think it's good to have that structure. If you need a presentation, reach out to me. I'd be happy to send you a PDF of my presentations and my scripts. And you can also get on the YouTube channel and you can watch a lot of that stuff. But again, I think a lot of times as we get going, it's like we get comfortable. We're so used to our presentation, but then maybe we just start saying stuff that we weren't saying at the beginning. Maybe we're saying stuff that is not helpful, that's actually hurting us more than helping us. And a lot of times if you record yourself and you go back and listen, you'll pick out those sort of things like, wow, I wasn't saying that beginning. My sales were a lot better back then. Like, God, I'm hurting myself. Like just saying something stupid that you think is helpful, that's not. And I think everybody's probably done that in the past. I think, again, that's where we got to go back to that self-evaluation and figuring out what we were doing in the past that maybe we aren't doing now, or vice versa. Maybe like I said, maybe we've added stuff that just isn't necessary, that is hurting you more than helping you.
You know what's interesting, Adam?
Yeah.
The less I'm in the field, which is the more that I have time to focus on the agency. It's a very tough balance to strike. The more I notice that inactivity leads to irregularity in the presentation. Like if when you're in the field 1 or 2 days a week, you don't get a lot of ramp up time. You don't get like a let's just shake out the rust kind of day. This is it. It's just today and then maybe tomorrow. And what that's telling me is if it's difficult for me to get in routine, to get active, to say the same presentation, to deal with the objections, to be prepared for the adversity, how is someone that's new to the business, that's not working on a regular basis, dealing with it? They're not. They're creating these sales slumps for themselves because they're not on the top of their game. Their skills aren't sharp because they just aren't in the field enough. You know, when are you at the top of your game? When you've been seeing 15 people a week, when you're buying 30 and 40 leads, when the presentation's coming to you off the top of your head, when you know the objection before they say the objection, or you even preempt the objection. So much of these sales slumps are just all circling back to inactivity, which doesn't have you prepared.
Yeah, no, that all makes a lot of sense with the presentation. And I just kind of lost my train of thought there, but no, that makes a lot of sense with just the activity. You know, again, yeah, activity is key. And
like a designated
I
hitter,
think,
Adam, the designated hitter isn't just sitting there watching the entire game because they're not in the field. They're back in the batting cages taking swings all the time. I don't know if that's like that nowadays, but it was when it was just the American League. I know that guys that are on the bench are stepping out of the dugout to go warm up before they get their single at bat of the game. You know, sometimes guys get demoted not because they're not major league ready, but because they need to see more at bats because they're not getting enough playing time. Activity is the result or the cause of most people's problems.
yeah. And, you know, again, you know, when you make that sale too, I mean, you know, the best time to make another one is right after the last one. I mean, because again, you're like at the peak of your performance, I guess you could say. You know, you feel great about what you did and you're so motivated, but it's like you gotta leave your house in the morning with like that same mindset, that same motivation. Almost like you gotta feel like maybe you just left the house and made a sale. If you can go your whole day with that sort of mindset, I think you're gonna have a much better day too. But you know, like we talked about, I know even one of our agents brought it up on the call this morning, how I had talked about last Friday about just door knocking as many leads as you can throughout the day, even if you don't have appointments set, door knock as many as you can. And I was telling another one of my agents over the weekend, I told him, look, even if you got to compete with somebody, if you got another agent buddy that maybe you guys do the same thing where you compete as far as who can knock as many doors throughout the day. And now my mindset behind that is that, I mean, it even happens to me where when I'm out running leads, where, I pull up to a house or, maybe I'm not even there yet. And you get busy, or you get distracted. You pull your phone out, you start going through your emails, all this other stuff. And that's taking up time where you could already be going up to the door. You could already be getting back to your car. You could already be moving on to the next stop. But if you are competing against somebody that is out there doing the same thing and you're seeing how many doors each of you can knock throughout the day, I think that's going to maybe push you a little bit harder to get out of the car a little bit faster and back to the car to just rinse and repeat and do it again. It's all about activity. And the more people that you have to see, the more money you're going to make because you're going to make some sales. But like one of our agents said on the call this morning, I mean, there's lots of leads and we don't want to run them into the ground either. But there's a lot of leads that we have that is, if we're focusing on the new leads every week, that's great. But then the leads from the prior weeks, we can add those into like our master route, I guess you could say. And that's I'm kind of set up the same way. I have a route on my one of the apps that I use, the mapping app, that there's got to be at least 100 stops in that route. Wherever I'm at, when I leave my appointment, if I have an hour to kill, I already have a whole bunch of leads that are already preset on that route, where all I got to do is hit start. It's going to take me to the next closest stop. And all I got to do is look on my iPad and search the address, and I'll find the lead. So I'll know who it is, and I'll be able to go and work that route. But so much of this is just about activity and just having that steady flow of people to see, but also being motivated to maybe get out of the car a little bit faster when you're out working the leads and not just sitting around. These phones, I tell you, boy, they can be distracting. You get stuck in like a TikTok loop where you start watching these videos one after another. I mean, it's just total waste of time. Why do you think it's illegal in China? I mean, like they don't want people sitting around being unproductive, and that's what it's doing. You're unproductive when you're just sitting there watching videos all day. I mean, watch my stuff. That's fine. But anything else like, that's not relatable to like your goals at hand, really just, a waste of time.
It's interesting. We're working on putting together a leaderboard, and it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exact. It's not going to be everything that it should be yet, but nothing is perfect the moment you start a process. And I showed it to you. I'm like, I want to get your opinion before I post it. And the first thing you said to me is, man, I've had a down month. I got to step up my game. And that's exactly what a leaderboard does for folks. It isn't even that you have to compete against somebody else. You want to compete against yourself to increase those numbers, and now that those numbers are visible and in front of you. Also, I had this thought yesterday, and I'd love to get your opinion because I think it has a lot to do with slump issues. I think agents that are not buying leads 1 week after the next, they're doing that because they haven't worked those leads. They literally haven't even worked the leads, let alone bought the next set. Like, well, I didn't get enough out of them, so I'm going to work them again. Adam, when I was new, my leads on a 5-day week literally looked beat to death because you printed them out, you put them together, you cut them out. I had to buy new leads because the old ones were falling apart. Do you think that people don't buy leads from 1 week to the next because they're not working them hard enough? They haven't knocked them 3 times, 3 days, that kind of stuff?
Most definitely. I think that that's really it. And if you're not working the leads enough where you feel like you're ready to order more, you didn't work them hard enough that week. There's no reason. What's the average agent? Most productive agents are working, I would say, at least 20 to 30 leads every week.
Mm-hmm.
And they're working those leads hard enough that they're ready to move on to new leads the following week. Like if they went 2 weeks in a row on that same set of leads, yeah, they'd be sitting around, piddling their thumbs trying to figure out what to do or where to go, because they already got a disposition on a good portion of those leads. So if you're not getting a yes or no on those 20 to 30 leads, and that means you're not ready to move on to the next for the following week, you're not putting the time in, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean,
and here's
that's
no.
you're not working the way you need to be working. I mean, you got to be working, I don't care, Monday through Saturday if you have to. You got to do whatever you can to get in front of the people. When you're investing into your business, you're going to be wasting a lot of money if you're not putting the time in.
Yeah, and every single one of the guys on your agency this week bought leads. They had their card charged. They had that self-inflicted pain of that money being deducted from their account. And I could guarantee few things in life, but I guarantee they're going to go out there and work to make that money back. Like, and then once they get out there to work that money back, making more money is just a natural result of you already being there. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, well, my slogan, that I always say, you got to be willing to bet on yourself, and that's the bet. You're betting on yourself by investing in the leads. But I could take $100 and throw it on black on the roulette wheel, and there's a 50-50 chance that I'll make the money back and some. But with leads, I mean, there's a much better chance that I'm going to come out much further ahead. If I'm investing $600 into leads, I expect to probably earn at least $3,000 to $4,000. And that's, again, because I'm willing to put the time in to make sure that I get a yes or a no on those leads. And if I haven't gotten a yes or no on all of them, I know I'm going to still need more leads the following week to keep busy.
Here's
So,
another interesting number when it comes to slumps, and then I'm going to be out of notes. You need, if you buy 25 leads a week, that's 100 leads a month, right? And if 38% of those leads set an appointment, either through an appointment setter or through yourself, that's a good statistical number. That means that you're going to have to still find 22 of your appointments some other way, via door knock, book of business, existing clients, neighbor knocks, typically door knocks. So I think people have to have a realistic expectation. If you're going to need to give 60 presentations in a month, how are you going to do that off of 20 leads if you bought one set of leads all month? It doesn't even make statistical sense. I don't think we pay enough sense to the numbers in this business, and maybe that's what I'm going to talk about the whole rest of the year. But all right, so I only bought 32 leads this month. That's why you failed. That's exactly right there. You need to see 60 people, and it takes probably 100 or more leads to see 60 of them, so you bought 20 of them. Then the conversation stops right there. You're in a slump because you just don't have enough people to see. And the numbers prove that. 100 leads a month, 38% appointment set. That means 22 of your presentations you have to brute force effort your way in front of.
well, Chris, you write on average like over 400,000 in premium a year. When's the last week that you didn't order any leads?
Never. Like absolutely never. And what I do is I buy even more of them so that I don't, because I don't have a lot of time in the field. I don't have time to door knock, and I don't mean that in a presumptuous sense. It's just with 1 or 2 days you don't have extra time. If I had a full 4 or 5 day week, heck, I'd have a door knock day and it'd be a beautiful thing. So I buy more leads to drive that number even higher. I know that 40 leads a week on a 38% set rate equals 15 presentations. And that's how you can just put the numbers into your favor. And there hasn't been a single week ever I didn't buy leads. Like, it's not even a thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, this year too, I mean, I've been even more disciplined than probably ever when it comes to that. Even doubling down a little bit, ordering more than enough leads almost every week.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've probably, as far as personal production goes, I'm probably having one of the best years I've ever had. And that was after really not being out in the field for a long time. I mean, this is like my first full year, I guess you could say, back out in the field. So it makes a huge difference when you're consistent with it, with ordering those leads. So let's get back on track here.
There we go.
Like I said, self-evaluation, not only if you change things up, but I've always said, like, when you're leaving a house and you didn't make a sale and you get back to the car, rather than just drive off like, screw that guy, I can't believe that he didn't want to buy from me. Like, sit around for a minute and just think a little bit about what just happened and think about like what you could have done to maybe be able to have made that sale. So then next time when you kind of run into those same sort of situations, you're going to know like what to say and how to handle those situations. And if you can't come up with the answer while you're sitting there, well, pick up the phone, give me a call, you know, uh, or Chris, I mean, we've been through so many different situations. There's really not many that could come up where we're just not going to really know how to handle it either. But so much of, I think, what I've learned in this business was just from that self-evaluation of just kind of sitting there and brainstorming and just figuring out like, what could I have done? What could I have done where next time I'm not going to have to walk out without a sale? Because there's so many sales that are just left on the table that could have easily been closed had the agent just known what to say rather than just put their tail between their legs and run back to their car. So, that's just something I feel very strongly about. It's just self-evaluation, and like I said, if you can't figure it out, give me a call, we can talk about it. And that's really the goal, is just to see to it that you succeed and you last long-term in the business. And that's how we can help you make that happen too. So let's talk about breaking out of the slump. I think it's good to revisit your goals and your mindset. Like I said at the beginning, when people first get in the business, they're sky high. They're like the most motivated. They feel so good. They feel so positive. And then sometimes that's when reality kind of kicks in a little bit after getting their butt kicked a few days out in the field. But you know what? When they were out with me, I was motivated. I was writing business and they felt real good about it too. It's like they just got to kind of get back to seeing that or remembering that you can do pretty good. You can do pretty well. It's just a matter of getting out there and doing it and keeping that positive mindset and knowing that this is going to work. Like I said too, on one of our training calls, it might've been on the Friday call, Chris, a couple weeks ago, like when I got into the business, like that was it. Like that was my choice. Like I knew that this was what I was going to do, like for the rest of my career. Like it wasn't like I'm going to try this and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, I can always go do something else. Like I knew going in, this was going to be it. And that's the mindset that I've always had, that there was no turning back. And now it's like, I've even said, like, it's to the point, like if I ever decided that I was just tired of the business, I wouldn't know what to do. This is me. This is what I do. But I think more people maybe need to go in with that mindset, that this isn't like, let's see what happens sort of thing. Let's go in with that mindset of this is it. This is my career now, and I'm going to make it work, and I'm going to be very successful because I'm going to put the time in, and I'm going to do everything that I am going to need to do to be successful. And again, revisiting those goals, having a weekly goal, I think is important. And I think that can also be motivating when you set yourself up and again, holding yourself accountable. I usually set pretty high goals. I mean, I usually set at least a goal of at least 5,000 in premium for the week. And I'm just out in the field for the 3 days, but I am going to hold myself accountable to that. And I'm going to do what I can to hit that goal. I'm not just throwing a number out there. Like I feel like I have enough leads every week to make it happen. And I'm pretty ticked off when I don't make it happen, because I expect more out of myself. Like I know I can hit that goal, and I'm going to put the time in. I'm not going to go home early. I'm going to stay out as late as I can every night that I'm out in the field. I don't like going home with that mindset either of like, I could have done more. So I want to leave it all out on the table. And there's weeks that I might only write 3,000, maybe 4,000. And a lot of agents are like, well, that's a good week. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Like there's days I'll go home and I made $1,500 for the day and I'm ticked off because I feel like I should have done a lot more. So I think that's, something too, just kind of having those goals and and being motivated and knowing that you can achieve those goals if you have everything set up properly from the get-go. And then I think you need to evaluate, maybe kind of like we talked about, the self-evaluation, and improve your sales process. Again, figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't, reaching out to me and having those sort of discussions. Improve your product knowledge. So, I mean, that's another thing too. I mean, and you want to become an expert at your craft. You want to know about the different products that are out there and how they work and what's best to suit your client's needs. Referrals, going back to your policyholders, asking them for referrals if you're in a slump. I think, we've even talked about that. I mean, I remember one day I was having just a day where I just wasn't doing much anything. And I remember you were just like, go through your policyholders. I'm sure that you got someone in the area that you can catch up with and write some business on. That's one luxury of being in the business.
Yeah. I guarantee if you
a long
call
time
through 10 or 20 people that you've sold in the past, one of them is going to want to have a conversation and just happen to be thinking about life insurance when you called them too. And that's what you get in that but you never get to that point if you also don't work your butt off in those first 2 years. Like if you don't really put that full 5 and 6 day work ethic in the beginning, you never have those people to fall back on in the first place. Adam, I think a lot of the ways that people need to break out of a slump, besides getting out their front door, is recognizing that inactivity leads to depression and depression leads to a slump, and that problems don't fix themselves. Like you're not going to get out of a slump continuing to do the same thing that you're currently doing, which is probably nothing. Is there a problem with your presentation? Do you not know how to overcome an objection? Do you not have anyone to call from a home when you don't know what to do? Our agents call us all the time from a home because they encounter a situation that's unique, unsure, they don't know what direction to go in. If you're in a slump because you're in this alone and you have no one to reach out to, evaluate who you're doing business with, because if you really are out there trying, someone should be there running right alongside of you, helping you get there at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be working with people that are easily accessible, that that have your back and that are willing to help you, and like I said, that want to see you succeed. And that's I kind of and people that are running agencies, they're going to be successful if you're successful, so they should want to help you. And if they act like you're just not worth their time, well then maybe you need to look around and evaluate, figure out maybe it's not the best place to be. But referrals, policyholders, like I said, from doing this a long time, of course, I have a huge book of policyholders that I can go back on, but I've had a lot of my agents that have not been in the business for a very long time, even 20, 30 days after they write the initial application, where they'll go back and let the client know that they actually pre-qualified for more coverage. Let's just say you wrote a policy with a company and their maximum face amount was $35,000 and you wrote the person $15,000. Well, when you can go back, one thing that I've always found is that the client trusts you enough to move forward with taking out the policy. At that time, they might not be willing to give you referrals. They trust you enough to take out that business. But after 3 or 4 weeks, there's a few things that happen. They received their policy. Everything that you told them was true. And now the trust has gone up even more. So now you can go back and Mr. Jones, you actually pre-qualified for $35,000. And I know you did the $15,000, but you got to look at down the road what the cost of these funerals are going to be too. And everything just keeps going up. If I were you, I would take advantage of getting what I can. Well, I know I can get it. And right now is the cheapest you're ever going to get that additional $20,000 in coverage. Do you want to take care of that today? And we did a study a couple years ago. 2 out of 5 clients would take out additional coverage within 30 days of the initial policy. So it doesn't matter. You don't got to be in the business for years to go back and write additional business on your policyholders. You go back a month later, like I said, they trust you more now because everything that they told them, everything you told them, as long as you were honest from the beginning, everything you told them is actually going to happen.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot easier to be able to add coverage, and it also makes it easier then to be able to get those referrals, because they're more willing to give your name out to people, or give you people to contact, when they know that they can trust you and that you can do a good thing to help their people just like you did to help them.
Adam, I think when you're in a slump, sometimes you need to get back to the basics. Like, obviously, you've changed something about what you're doing. Just go back to the basics. And when you're talking about policyholders, for a full year early in my career, I delivered every single policy that physically came to me that I could deliver. And it was a lot of extra work. And because I was writing at such a high volume, eventually I couldn't continue to do it. But I learned a lot. And I learned an agent writing 3 to 5 applications a week, 10, 15, 20 applications a month. They can deliver their policies. They can go out one Saturday a month, one Friday morning, and do exactly what you're talking about. Find opportunities to do small increases. I would used to write down on a sticky note on the top of their policy, old Transamerica policies, for only $3 more, only $5 more. I wasn't even trying to get massive increases. I just wanted to make my policy deliveries also profitable activity. And maybe I sold you 12,500, and I'd be happy getting you to 15, delivering that policy, getting an extra signature. Getting back to the basics in those situations, not only was I upselling, but those referral opportunities were far more prevalent because you were there in person. Other people that were in the home that weren't there before. Holy crap. And then surprise people that you could sell now that you're back in the field again. Adam, some of the times when I delivered a policy, people would have other policies they forgot to show me. Oh, when you were here before, I forgot to show you that I also had this. They didn't forget. They didn't trust me enough yet. They were holding a little bit back, but now that I had come back, now that I had shown them the policy, it was more real to them than it was before, and the floodgates just opened right up. Sometimes going back to the basics meant policy conservation. And when I would go back to save a policy, I would find more people that would want insurance. So back to the basics is another great way to get out of a slump, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually, I think, one of the bullet points towards the end here. So that's
Oh,
funny.
great.
But
Stole it.
no, that's okay. One thing while you were talking, though, I was thinking about how many agents probably don't are not organized with their business, where it would be difficult for them to go back to their policyholders. I think it's so crucial to set up like either like an iCloud folder or like Google Drive or Dropbox with all of your different policy applications. You can organize it by carrier, and I always save the file as their last name, comma, their first name, and the date that I wrote the application. And maybe even the town. I might even put the name of the city that is in the file. So then I can search it and I can find those policyholders pretty easily. And I think also it's a good idea to put together a spreadsheet of your policyholders. I've had agents in the past when I was working with a company complain about how some companies won't provide their policyholder information to them. And it's like,
You should
well,
have it.
you should have it. Yeah,
You
you
should have
shouldn't
it.
have to call into a carrier to get that information. Like, you should be organized with your business where you don't have to call in. I could see maybe if you just want to find out if the business is all still on the books, or maybe some of the policies that had lapsed, you could even call into the carriers and ask about each specific one if you have the information. But I just think it's so crucial to be organized and to keep up with all of that stuff. So then when you want to do these sort of things, when you want to go back and do policy reviews, well, makes it a lot easier. If you're not organized and have a list of your policyholders, it's going to be pretty difficult to be able to go back in a year and add coverage.
I have a whole list on
Uh,
my iPad here. It's called Maryland Bees, the Plan Bs. Like Plan Bs in the area I'm working, I can go back and see just by opening that sheet up. And that comes from my CRM, which is just a Google sheet anyway, and just my memory and writing stuff down and looking through it, taking 15 minutes to do it. But you've got to have those Plan Bs because Plan A doesn't always work out. and you put yourself in a slump. Oh crap! You put yourself in a slump because you're being so plan A dependent. You got to have a plan A, a plan B, and probably even a plan C. And when I have all those intertwined, I don't ever come home empty-handed. So that's part of the slump busting, is having multiple like fallback options.
And another thing, cold door knocking. People that maybe don't have a whole lot of leads, maybe they are fairly new to the business. If there's a will, there's a way. Uh, cold door knocking is tough, but being broke is tougher. So again, it's up to you. What do you want to do to succeed? I've been there. I mean, I remember, prior, few companies ago, first final expense company that I did business with, they were financing me leads, and it got to the point I was overfinanced. I had too many leads that I owed money on that they weren't going to give me any more leads. So I had a decision to make. I got to figure out a way to write some business, or I'm out of business. And I picked out a neighborhood that I already had leads in and worked some of those leads. And then I just started knocking doors. I figured all it's going to take is one or two people to let me in their home to kind of get me out of this hole. And so, yeah, cold door knocking works. If you're in the right area, I'd recommend houses that are close together, where you can go up and down the block and knock out 20, 30 houses in an hour. That would be the key. But I mean, we've even done studies. We found that every 40 doors you knock on, you should be able to make a sale. So, and what I've found from doing this too, I mean, again, it's all mindset. I found that more people, even if they were not interested, were appreciative of me coming by to say, hey, this is what we're doing out here. And I always just kind of put it as I've been assigned to do a neighborhood enrollment. I've been assigned to do a neighborhood enrollment for a state-approved final expense program that'll pay your family up to $35,000 towards your funeral expenses. And I just needed about 5 minutes to see what you'd qualify for. Can I come in? And like I said, I mean, more people are appreciative than not. And I've cold door knocked where people are like, wow, we just came back from a funeral. We were just talking about this, how much we need something like this. And I just happen to be, right place, right time. So you just never know what you're going to run into. I mean, same thing. Even let's say you have a 2:00 appointment and it's 12 o'clock and you got nothing to do. Well, heck, knock some doors. Are you going to you have a better chance? You're going to have a better chance of making some sales, knocking on some doors over the next hour and a half than if you're just sitting in your car doing nothing. So, like I said, activity, like we talk about, activity is key. That means you got to do it the hard way. Like I said, what's harder, cold door knocking or not having any money? And then there it is, Chris, back to the basics. Just kind of get back to the simplicity, I think. Almost like I said at the beginning, when people maybe first got started, what were they doing then? What had they changed since then? And let's just kind of get back to what we were doing, what we were taught that was working before we decided or didn't even realize that maybe we were changing things up, that maybe overcomplicated things. Just get back to simplicity. And then the last one is just seek help. Bottom line, seek help. Find a mentor.
Help. Somebody help me.
That's it.
That's so true.
Find a mentor, find someone that's willing to help you. There's plenty of people out there. I'm very willing to help people. I know Chris is too. And, but find someone that's willing to help you and be involved with a group of agents that are willing to share and help one another and keep each other on track. And make sure that those sort of groups that you're involved in are positive groups.
I was writing that down right now. I was literally writing positivity as you said that.
Yeah. Positive groups. I've seen people involved with different groups where they go south. Mm-hmm. And, all it takes is one bad apple. It's like, I've talked about that even like they call like in baseball, like the clubhouse cancer, where they have one player that just doesn't mesh with the rest of the team. Maybe he was an all-star and maybe he was really good. And then he comes into the clubhouse and everybody can't stand him. And I remember the Cubs. This was a long time ago. This player was Milton Bradley was his name. And this was probably like early 2000s, I think. Yeah, it was like Dusty Baker era. And I just remember like the Cubs signed this guy and everyone was like, man, Milton Bradley, he's been crushing it. I can't remember who he even came from at the time. I don't know if he was with the Dodgers or the Indians or something, but I just remember, he had like his best season prior to joining the Cubs. Like, and he really, before then, I don't feel like it was an all-star or anything. He had like one really, really good season, but it was enough to get the fan base all excited about it. But the guy came in and he was just a real pain. Nobody liked him. He was a pain in the butt in the clubhouse. And I think it was actually 2004. Like the Cubs, they went to the NLCS, almost went to the World Series in 2003. That was when they were up against the Marlins, that Steve Bartman game, with the foul ball and Moises Alou and all that stuff. And then the Cubs collapsed. And then 04, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 04. They brought in that Milton Bradley, just another hitter in the lineup. And the Cubs were expected to be really good again. And I remember it was a bad year, just a year that put a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But same thing. I mean, in our business, I feel like, you want to be surrounded around the right people. You want to be surrounded about people that are motivated, that are upbeat, that care about your success, and that are more than willing. We have a group. Chris, our group me chat, people are willing to share ideas. They're willing to share and help people. Majority of the people in that group are willing to help people and they're not getting anything out of it other than maybe receiving helpful advice in return from other people.
Yeah. If you give without expecting anything in return, good things come back to you. The best way to learn something is to teach something. I used to take calls from agents in homes all the time, and none of them were in my downline. I didn't have a downline. They just knew I knew what I was doing, and they would all call me. And a small part of me resented the fact that their upline wasn't answering the phone, but then I realized it was just making me better. People would say, well, how'd you get so good at underwriting? Well, freaking everybody would call me, and there was no toolkit. In agent guides, you actually have to study them. That's how I got good. I know for a fact, Adam, that if you and I couldn't answer our phone, we were incapacitated or away, and someone posted in our group chat in a home, call me for help. Somebody would call them, and they would also receive good quality advice and know what to do. And that's the kind of support people are supposed to be receiving, and in many cases just aren't.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, the negativity, it can get to you. I mean, I remember, just in the past, working with a group of people where it was like always glass half full and like just always looking at like the bad stuff and like focusing on the problems rather than the solutions. And it to me, it just made business not fun and not enjoyable. And because me, I mean, would much rather focus on the solutions, and do what we can to get better. And kind of like what we're talking about today, doing what we can to help agents to stay on track. And if they fall off track, well, doing what we can to help them get out of a slump. And so that's, hopefully today, what we talked about makes sense to a lot of you all out there. Because I think that, like I said, I mean, I think a lot of it is self-inflicted. A lot of it is mindset. And a lot of it is just doing the stuff that we know we need to be doing that maybe we are not currently doing. And check out my agency as well, unitylifegroup.com, in-home sales as well as telesales platforms available. We do have a lead program, many different lead opportunities to help you get in front of more people. Our weekly trainings, if you're watching right now, well, this is one of our weekly trainings. And then we have a call every day too. Chris runs a call Monday through Friday. I'm on the call every Friday morning, kind of going over different things, and maybe a few other times throughout the week. But same thing. It's just something to kind of keep people on track, share ideas. Agents kind of give agents the ability to hold themselves accountable by uh, throwing their numbers out for the week or throwing their goals out there for the week. Like I said, I on those calls, boy, I throw my goal out there, and my intention is to hit that goal. I'm not just making up a number, but by actually like telling people this is what my plan is to do for the week, I feel like it does kind of raise that accountability up even a little bit more, because then I got other people too that might even be paying attention to what I'm doing, to seeing if I'm actually close to hitting those goals. And I don't want them to think I'm just full of it. Like, I'm setting those goals for a reason, and the intention is to hit those goals.
You need a little
So
spot on your thing there for appointment setting. I mean, you got your private appointment setter is already asking you for more leads this morning. Like, that's a thing that you have access to that is
yeah,
mind blowing in this industry.
yeah, and that's once we're done with our training, I'll be loading up about 45 more leads for them to call, along with the 45 from last week and probably 50 from the prior week. We got a lot of leads. But like I said, it's all about that consistency, not being afraid to bet on yourself and have those leads on a regular basis. And it's just going to put you in front of that many more people, make it a heck of a lot easier to be able to hit those goals every week. We have great opportunities too with our agency to help you build a team. We do work with multiple carriers, but I'll be honest, I like to keep it simple. I probably focus on maybe one or two, and I have a few more for when I need them, but I'm just about keeping things simple. I don't need to throw my business all over with 30 different companies. Like, I'm not collecting baseball cards. I don't need to have every single one of them out there.
Professional contractor.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoop-de-doo. Wow. Awesome. You're with 50 carriers. Wow. That's awesome. Boy, you wasted a lot of time filling out all those contracts. So I just don't see it. We keep it simple. We have the carriers if you need them, but like I said, I mean, yeah, we keep it simple with just, keep it simple with just a few. High contracts for those that maybe have an agency or already have a team and can show some production. But pretty good things going here for sure. And we'd be more than happy to talk to you and set up a call about maybe even having you join us if you're not already with us. And then you can check out my training, the YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/Adam Bursan. And I keep forgetting, I got to add the insurance life and everything in between YouTube channel, as well as the podcast, the audio version, which is on Apple and Spotify and like 45 different audio platforms. I don't even know the name of most of them.
You've got more podcast platforms than you do carrier contracts.
Yeah, we are definitely growing. Our podcast is growing. I texted Chris the other day. I think we are closing in. At least the audio version, I just started back in like October, and we're closing in already on our 100th episode. So, we've been putting a heck of a lot of content out there, and it's all stuff that's just going to help agents to improve, get better. And it's stuff that you can listen to while you're out in the field. I've talked about that a lot back in the day. I mean, there wasn't insurance specific content that I could listen to when I was out driving around all day. I just listened to sales CDs. I listened to Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins and Brian Tracy, The Psychology of Selling. And it's an awesome book, Brian Tracy. But now, we have this sort of content, YouTube, like I said, the Apple audio, the Spotify. This is stuff you can listen to while you're driving around, while you're out running your leads. That's specific to what you're out there doing. That's just going to help you get better. It's not just generalized sales tips. It's focused on what you're out there selling. So pretty good stuff, like I said, that I think it'll just help you get better. So if you have yet to follow or subscribe or any of that stuff, I'd recommend a comment too. Any of the audio that you listen to or the YouTube, leave us a comment, even if you have suggestions for future episodes, or heck,
Something you're
maybe,
struggling with.
maybe you want to be on the show. Feel free, shoot me a message. We could talk about it. We're always open to having guests on with us and celebrating success. So feel free to reach out. Be more than happy to set up a call. Maybe we even have you on a future episode. So I think that's about all I had for today. So thanks again for coming on. Here's my contact information too for those who need it. The different websites you can reach me at. And like I said, feel free to reach out. Be happy to set up a call if you need anything. And I hope y'all have a great week. And I'll look forward to seeing you again next Monday. Is that July 1st? Next Monday already?
It is. I'll be
Wow.
camping, but maybe we can get a co-host to fill in Monday. But
Okay. Sounds good. If not, I'm sure I could handle a solo one. But yeah, look forward to seeing you next Monday, same time, same place. I hope y'all have a great week. Thanks again.